You will never master life until you master your emotions. Power doesn't scream. Power stays still and shifts the atmosphere. Ladies and gentlemen, the most dangerous person in any room is not the loudest, it's the one who's calm. Why? Because peace is power. Today, I want to teach you how to gain that power by mastering your emotional responses fast. We've all been there. Someone disrespects you, a door closes in your face. Life throws betrayal, insult, or delay, and you want to explode. But let me tell you something, your emotions were never designed to lead you, they were designed to follow your decisions. The moment you learn to respond instead of react, you start walking in divine authority. 6 powerful KPIs. A reaction is a sign of emotional slavery. Reaction is a sign of emotional slavery. It may feel natural to explode when someone disrespects you, to shut down when you're betrayed, or to lash out when you're under pressure. But what you must understand is this: a person who lives by reaction is a person who has handed over the keys of their life to everyone and everything around them. They are no longer the driver, they are a passenger being jerked in every direction by external forces. You wake up feeling fine. You're ready for a good day. Then someone cuts you off in traffic and suddenly your mood shifts. You walk into work and someone throws a sarcastic comment your way. Now you're angry. Just like that, your peace is gone. Your emotions are like a thermostat controlled by others. What you haven't realized is they're controlling you without even touching you. That's not living. That's slavery. You're enslaved not with chains, but by the inability to pause, breathe, and choose. You become a puppet whose strings are pulled by situations, people's words, and temporary discomforts. But you were never created to live like that. You were designed by God to lead, not to be led by every emotion that passes through your body. That's why the Bible says, he who has no rule over his spirit is like a city broken down without walls. In other words, if you can't control your emotions, your life is wide open to every attack. Let me show you something from everyday life. Imagine walking through a marketplace. It's loud, chaotic, and people are trying to grab your attention. One merchant shouts insults, another tries to provoke you. Now picture a king walking through that same place. Does he argue with every voice? Does he stop to explain himself to every fool? No. He walks with a steady pace, eyes focused, because he knows who he is. He doesn't need to react to everything. His calm is his authority. Now contrast that with the average person scrolling through social media. One post ruins their mood, one comment, and they're ready to fire back. You see, technology has made reaction easier and mastery harder. You don't even need to hear someone's voice anymore. A few words on a screen are enough to steal your peace. That's because most people haven't trained themselves to rule over their spirit. They don't know they're being controlled. They think it's just being real or honest. But it's not. It's weakness disguised as authenticity. Listen to me, real power is when you could react, but you choose not to. It's when you want to cuss someone out, but instead you breathe deep and respond with wisdom. That's not cowardice, that's control, and only the truly powerful can operate at that level. Let me take you deeper. A lion doesn't flinch when a dog barks. Why? Because the lion knows the difference in power. When you react to everything, you place yourself on the same level as what attacked you. You stoop down. You shrink to fit the moment. But when you stay calm, you elevate above it. You remove the bait and keep your dignity. One of the greatest tests of emotional maturity is how you handle disrespect. And here's what most people miss. Disrespect is not just a test of patience, it's a test of identity. When someone disrespects you, they're trying to pull you out of character. They want to control the script, and the moment you react, they succeed. But when you don't flinch, when you stay composed, you rob them of their power. There's a man who once lost a high-paying job because he reacted emotionally in a meeting. One heated exchange and he let loose. His reaction didn't just cost him a moment, it cost him a future. But there was another man in the same company, calm under pressure, composed when criticized. He was later promoted because the CEO said, I trust him. He doesn't let his emotions lead him. That's how life works. Emotional control opens doors that raw emotions slam shut. Every day you are being tested, in traffic, in conversations, in comments, in disappointments. And every day, you either rise to lead your emotions or sink and let them lead you. And hear this, you can't fulfill your purpose if you're too busy reacting to petty things. You will never walk into destiny while being dragged by drama. Your calling is too great for you to keep wasting energy on emotional chaos. You don't have to clap back. You don't have to defend yourself every time. You don't have to explain. You don't even need to be understood. Sometimes silence is the highest demonstration of strength. Calm is not the absence of emotion, it's the mastery of it. You were born to rule over storms, not drown in them. And the greatest storm you'll ever conquer is not outside of you, it's within. Your emotions follow your belief system. Your emotions follow your belief system. That means what you feel isn't random, it's rooted in what you believe deep down. Every emotion you experience is connected to a thought you've accepted as truth. That's why two people can face the exact same situation and feel completely different about it. One person feels offended, The other feels unbothered. One panics, the other stays calm. Why? It's not just personality, it's programming. Let me break it down. If you believe that being ignored means you're worthless, then every time someone doesn't reply to your message, you'll feel hurt. If you believe that someone raising their voice means you're in danger, then every argument triggers fear and anxiety. But if you change the belief, if you reprogram the meaning, the emotion changes. The power was never in the event. It was always in what you believe the event meant. That's why you must examine your internal definitions. You might say, they made me angry, but truthfully, nobody can make you feel anything. They did something, and based on your belief system, you assigned a meaning. That meaning produced an emotion. So the real problem wasn't what they did. It was what you believed about what they did. Your anger, your sadness, your fear. It's all attached to belief systems you've accepted over time, often without even realizing it. Here's a daily life example. Someone cuts you off in traffic. If your belief system says, this person disrespects me and people shouldn't get away with that, you'll likely feel angry and want revenge. But what if your belief system says, maybe they're rushing to the hospital and their behavior doesn't define my peace? Instantly, your emotional response shifts. Same event, different belief, entirely different emotion. Let me say this clearly. Your emotions are not independent forces floating around you. They are servants to your thoughts. If you don't like how you're feeling, trace the thought behind it. Trace the story you're telling yourself. Change the story, change the feeling. This is not denial. This is discipline. People go through breakups and feel like their world is falling apart. Why? Because they believe they lost their worth with that person. But if you believed that your value was never attached to anyone's presence, their departure would hurt, but it wouldn't destroy you. Because your belief system would anchor you in truth, not opinion, not emotion. This is why spiritual growth is so important. What you feed your mind determines what your heart feels. If all you consume is drama, negativity, fear, and rejection, your emotional world will reflect that. You'll become emotionally fragile, constantly offended, overly sensitive, reactive. But if you build your belief system on truth, peace, and identity, you become unshakable, not because life gets easier, but because your mindset gets stronger. Think about a thermostat. It doesn't just read the temperature, it sets it. That's your belief system. It sets the emotional climate of your life. You're walking into rooms, into relationships, into challenges, not based on what's happening around you, but based on what you believe within you. And if you believe that you are strong, chosen, valuable, and favored, no rejection, insult, or delay can take that from you. Now hear me, most emotional pain is not caused by the situation. It's caused by the meaning you've attached to the situation. You believed you had to be perfect to be loved, so when you failed, you fell apart. You believed being successful meant never getting criticized, so when you were criticized, you crumbled. But those beliefs were never true. They were just familiar. And familiar lies are often more dangerous than obvious ones. You've got to get aggressive about what you believe. You've got to inspect every thought that enters your mind like a gatekeeper at the door. You've got to challenge it. Is this truth or is this trauma? Is this faith or is this fear? Because you cannot afford to keep building emotions on foundations that were built by broken moments. Let me give you a powerful tool. When you feel an intense emotion rising, pause and ask, what am I believing right now? You'll be shocked by the answer. You might discover you're believing that you're not good enough, that you'll never succeed, that you're alone, that you always mess things up. And once you identify the lie, you can break it. You can replace it with truth. And when you do that, when the belief system shifts, the emotions will follow. People think emotional control means suppressing feelings. That's wrong. Real control is about mastering beliefs that give birth to the feelings. It's not about ignoring your emotions. It's about discipline in the factory where those emotions are produced, your mind. Let me be clear, you don't have to stay emotionally unstable. You don't have to live at the mercy of feelings that rise and fall like a storm. You can build a belief system so solid, so grounded in truth, that peace becomes your default setting. Not because life gets easier, but because you finally understand who holds the thermostat. You do. Calmness is strategic power. Calmness is strategic power. It is not weakness. It is not passivity. And it is definitely not silence born out of fear. It is calculated dominance. It is the ability to stand in the middle of chaos and remain unmoved, untouched, and unshaken. It is knowing that the loudest voice in the room is rarely the one in control. In fact, the person who stays calm in a heated room often controls the temperature of everyone else. They don't need to shout. Their stillness demands attention. In today's fast-paced world, people confuse being reactive with being strong. They think yelling is strength. They think clapping back is confidence. They think posting their rage online makes them powerful. But in truth, that is emotional insecurity dressed in digital armor. Real strength doesn't panic. It doesn't prove. It doesn't plead. Real strength sits still and watches the storm waste its energy. When the dust settles, the calm person is still standing, clear-headed and in full command. Take a daily life example. You're in a meeting at work and someone publicly questions your ability in front of your peers. You feel the burn in your chest. Your instinct wants to defend, to retaliate, to prove a point. But instead, you take a breath. You look them in the eye and you respond with clarity and composure. That moment doesn't just protect your peace. It elevates your position because everyone else saw what you didn't say. They saw the power in your restraint. They saw royalty in your calm. The world rewards calm leaders. Even in war, it's the general who thinks strategically, not emotionally, who wins, and life is no different. If the enemy can get you to react, they can control your outcome. That's why every attack on your peace is really a trap. It's bait. They want you to lose focus. They want you to spiral. But when you remain calm, you stay dangerous, because a calm mind is a creative mind. A calm spirit sees opportunities while others are drowning in confusion. Here's what you need to understand. Most battles are lost not in action, but in reaction. The wrong text, the wrong word, the wrong tone. And suddenly you've started a war that didn't need to exist. And now you're spending days, weeks, or even years cleaning up the fallout from a moment you could have handled with composure. You lose time, you lose trust, you lose territory. Not because you were wrong, but because you weren't calm. That's why calmness is more than a mood. It's a strategy, it's a spiritual technology. It's a tool for winning unseen wars. Sometimes God doesn't remove the fire. He teaches you how to be cool under pressure, because elevation requires emotional intelligence. And emotional intelligence is birthed in the womb of calmness. You can't lead people if you can't lead yourself. You can't shift nations if your emotions keep shifting your focus. Let's talk about relationships. Ever been in a heated argument where both people are yelling, defending, accusing? No one's listening. No one's thinking. The argument isn't about the issue anymore. It's about the reaction. But then imagine someone who, in the midst of being shouted at, simply says, "I hear you, I refuse to shout back." Let's speak when we're both ready to respect this conversation. That calm response does more than silence the noise. It shifts the energy, because calmness disarms chaos. It disorients drama. It reverses the current. And here's the deep part. Calmness is not always external. You can be quiet on the outside and tormented on the inside. But true calmness is internal mastery. It's when the storm inside you is quieter than the one outside you. It's when your peace is rooted, not rented. And you only get that kind of peace when you practice it daily, not just in the big moments, but in the small ones. When someone cuts you off in traffic and you decide not to chase them or curse them out, that's training. When someone misjudges you and you don't feel the need to defend yourself, that's maturity. When life throws delays, disappointments, and detours your way, and you still choose to move forward with grace, that's power. Every day you have the opportunity to practice the art of calmness, and with every test, you sharpen your weapon. Let me give you another image. A sniper doesn't shoot in panic. They don't flinch, they don't shake. They steady their breath, they wait, they align, because the most lethal weapon is the one that's calm before it strikes. You must become that kind of person. Don't let your emotions fire off wild shots. Train your spirit to wait, to see, to understand, and then to act with precision. There are people who want to provoke you just to prove that they can. There are situations sent to pull you out of your position. But when you are calm, you become untouchable. You become unpredictable, because the enemy doesn't know how to fight someone who doesn't flinch. They know how to fight rage. They know how to fight noise, but they don't know how to fight silence soaked in power. Calmness isn't denial. It's discipline. It's not pretending that you're not hurt. It's deciding not to be controlled by your hurt. It's not pretending things don't bother you. It's choosing not to let those things direct your energy. You don't react because you're weak. You don't react because you're wise. And wisdom knows that the one who reacts first often loses last. You train peace like a muscle. You train peace like a muscle. It doesn't just show up when life gets hard. It's built in the quiet moments when no one sees. Peace isn't something you stumble into, it's something you build. You don't become peaceful because life gets easier. You become peaceful because you've trained your mind to stay steady when life gets noisy. Just like going to the gym strengthens your body, choosing peace in small moments strengthens your soul for the storms ahead. Think about it. No one lifts 200 pounds the first time they walk into a weight room. They start with what they can handle. Light weights, repetitions day by day, and eventually what used to feel heavy starts feeling light. That's how peace works. The first time someone disrespects you, it stings, it shakes you. But when you've trained your inner world, when you've practiced responding instead of reacting, breathing instead of breaking, you start to carry emotional weight with strength. What used to knock you out becomes what you walk through. Every time you choose not to argue back, you're lifting. Every time you breathe through disappointment, you're lifting. Every time you decide, I will not let this mess up my spirit, you're lifting. And guess what? People who lift consistently become stronger than those who only lift occasionally. So don't wait for a breakdown to build peace. Build it when life is quiet. Build it when the stakes are low. Because when the storm hits, It's not about what you know, it's about what you've trained. Let me give you a real life picture. You're in traffic, you're already late. Someone cuts you off. Your heart rate spikes, your mind is screaming, get even. But you catch it. You breathe, you say, not today, I choose peace. It sounds small, but that's a rep. That's muscle work. You're not just avoiding road rage, you're building spiritual strength. And the next time life tries to cut you off in a conversation, in your finances, in your dreams, you'll have the power to stay calm because you trained when it didn't matter. Peace is a decision, not a default. People wait to feel peace, but feelings are followers, not leaders. You lead your emotions, you don't get led by them. That's why peace must be practiced daily. The enemy of your soul doesn't always attack with major events. Sometimes he sends little annoyances, distractions designed to wear down your patience, little cuts that bleed out your energy. But when you're trained, you don't fall for it. You see the setup and you answer with silence, with stillness, with strategy. It's just like a musician who trains on scales every day so they can perform under pressure. A boxer doesn't train in the ring. They train long before the lights come on. That's why they stay calm even when the punches fly. They've been there before. In the dark, in the discipline. And peace works the same. You become what you consistently repeat. And if you consistently repeat peace, then even in chaos, you won't collapse because your inner world is stronger than the outer storm. You train peace when you don't clap back at petty drama. You train peace when your kids are yelling, and instead of losing your mind, you lower your tone and center the moment. You train peace when you hear gossip about you, and you don't try to clear your name because your peace is worth more than your pride. You train peace when the bills are late, the pressure is high, and instead of spiraling into fear, you open your mouth and say, God's got this, I'm not shaken. But let's be honest, peace doesn't feel powerful at first. It feels like you're being walked on. It feels like you're doing nothing. It feels like weakness. But make no mistake, it takes more strength to hold your peace than to lose your temper. It takes more power to walk away from a fight than to prove a point. Anyone can explode, but not everyone can stay composed. Peace is warfare. It's spiritual warfare. And the people who know how to keep peace in their home, peace in their mind, peace in their relationships, those are the ones winning battles the world can't see. The devil doesn't care if you shout in church. He gets nervous when you stay calm in crisis because peace is evidence that you trust something greater than yourself. Peace says, I know the storm looks big, but my anchor is bigger. So the next time life tries to shake you, don't ask, how do I get through this? Ask, how have I been training for this? If you've been training your peace, if you've been doing your reps, breathing through frustration, pausing before reacting, praying before panicking, then you won't just survive. You'll walk through fire and not smell like smoke. You'll stand in the flood and not drown. You'll endure betrayal, pressure, and delay, and still have clarity in your voice and strength in your step. Reaction delays destiny, reaction delays destiny. Let that sit in your spirit for a moment. Every time you react out of emotion instead of responding out of wisdom, you detour your own journey. The energy you give to rage, to proving your point, to defending your name, that energy is stolen from your assignment. People think delays come from external problems, money, lack of support, missed opportunities. But the truth is, the greatest delays come from internal battles, the battles you lose when you react instead of reflect. You cannot walk into your future if you're still tripping over your feelings. Imagine Joseph in the Bible, falsely accused, betrayed by his own blood, locked in prison. He could have reacted. He could have cursed his brothers, cursed the cupbearer, cursed Pharaoh. But he didn't. He waited. He stayed steady, and because he did, destiny found him in a dungeon, lifted him to the palace. Now imagine if he had reacted, if he had let his anger get loud, his frustration explode. The very people who held his promotion would have seen instability instead of leadership. Reaction would have cost him the throne. But patience preserved his position. That's how it works in our lives too. You're at a job where your boss mistreats you, talks down to you, everything in you wants to react. You want to lash out, tell them off, walk away. But what if that very job is your Jordan River? What if how you manage your emotions that determines the doors God will open next? You see, your reaction in private can delay your promotion in public. Destiny is delicate. It doesn't rest on your talent alone. It rests on your character. And character is tested not when things go right, but when they go wrong. People say things like, I had to speak my truth, or I couldn't let that slide. But what they don't realize is that in speaking their truth, they're often speaking away their timing. They're pushing back their season. Because destiny is precise. It's aligned with purpose, not pride. Every time you react, you feed pride. But when you restrain yourself, you feed purpose. And purpose always rewards patience. Think about a GPS. You're headed somewhere and you make a wrong turn. What does it do? It doesn't scream at you. It doesn't shut down. It simply recalculates. That's what wisdom does. That's what divine peace does. But emotions throw the whole system out. They say, I can't believe I missed it. This isn't fair. Why them and not me? And in all that noise, you miss your turn again. Now, you're not just off course, you're lost in your own feelings. That's why reaction delays destiny. Not because God isn't good, but because emotions can make you drift to direction. Let's go deeper. Every reaction carries a consequence. The text you send in anger, the email you fire off without praying, the words you speak in a moment of offense. All of those things create ripples. And those ripples don't disappear because you're sorry. Sometimes people aren't mad at you for what you did. They're hesitant because of how you reacted. They saw your instability. They felt your immaturity. And even though you might be anointed, they don't trust that your emotions won't sabotage the assignment. Here's what you must understand. Reaction is the child of impulse, but destiny is the fruit of discipline. If you want to walk in greatness, you must walk in governance, self-governance. You must lead yourself. You must master the pause, that sacred space between stimulus and response. That is where maturity is born. That is where kings and queens are forged. That is where God molds warriors. It's not in the reaction, it's in the pause, it's in the wait. Daily life will hand you opportunities to delay your destiny. The friend who betrays you, the coworker who gossips about you, the partner who breaks your heart. These are not just emotional moments, they are divine tests. They are opportunities to prove you're ready for more. And how you react determines what happens next. If you scream, break down, fight back, you fail the test. But if you process, reflect, respond with honor, you position yourself for promotion. People often say, I just couldn't help myself. Yes, you could. You just didn't train yourself. You didn't build emotional endurance. And so when the test came, you reacted like a child when you were called to reign like royalty. Children react, kings reflect, queens respond. And until you stop reacting like a child, you'll keep repeating the same cycles. Different people, same test. Different job, same trigger. Different opportunity, same reaction. Destiny doesn't shout, it whispers. And if you're too loud with your emotions, you'll never hear it. You'll miss the gentle nudge, the quiet instruction, the silent doorway that leads to your next level. Because destiny is always found in discipline. And discipline means saying, I feel this, but I won't be led by this. It means saying, I could react, but I choose to reign. The most powerful people aren't the ones who fight every battle. They're the ones who choose which battles are worth their energy. They know some things are too small for a reaction, and some reactions are too costly for their calling. They understand that silence is sometimes louder than shouting. That walking away is sometimes braver than staying to argue. That inner peace is the greatest form of progress. Because when you protect your peace, you protect your pace. And when you protect your pace, you stay aligned with destiny. God uses your calm to confuse the enemy. God uses your calm to confuse the enemy. You see, the enemy is a strategist. He studies your patterns. He knows what triggers you, what shakes you, what gets under your skin. He's not after your money, your car, or your career. He's after your peace, because peace is the platform where purpose stands. So when you remain calm in the fire, when you refuse to be moved in the middle of the storm, you frustrate hell. The devil expects you to lose it. He expects you to curse, to complain, to collapse. But when you sit in the middle of chaos and still smile, when you stand in the middle of delay and still speak faith, that's not just strength, that's spiritual warfare. Your calm is not weakness. It's power under control. It's your weapon. It's your shield. Calm is what turns battles in your favor. Calm is what shifts atmospheres. Calm is how God shows up through you. Do you remember Jesus in the boat? The disciples are panicking. The storm is raging. The wind is violent. But Jesus is sleeping. Why? Because he's not moved by what moves others. His calm wasn't denial. His calm was divine dominion. And that same spirit lives in you. You don't have to shout to be powerful. You don't have to fight every fire. Sometimes the most dangerous thing you can do to the enemy is nothing at all. Just stay calm and trust God. Have you ever noticed how some people fall apart when things go wrong? Their voice rises, their hands shake, their decisions become reactive, emotional, erratic. That's what the enemy loves: confusion, disorder, chaos. But when he throws his worst at you and you don't move, when he brings betrayal, heartbreak, rejection, and you just lift your hands and say, "It is well," that silence is deafening to the enemy, because your calm announces a level of trust that no storm can drown. Daily life gives you dozens of chances to react. Your spouse says something sharp. Your coworker undermines you. Your child disrespects you. Your account is in the red that doesn't come. The door doesn't open. Everything is whispering, lose control. Freak out. React. But when you choose calm instead, that's not just emotional intelligence, that's spiritual maturity. Because the fruit of the Spirit is self-control. And when you display that fruit, you remind the enemy that you're not a pawn in his game. You're a vessel in God's hand. People may misunderstand you. They may say you're passive, too quiet, too chill. Let them talk. What they don't understand is that your calm is not for them, it's for the kingdom. Your calm is not silence, it's strategy. You're not ignoring the problem, you're inviting the presence. You're not avoiding the battle, you're advancing in peace. because sometimes the victory is not in how loud you are, but in how still you stay. Be still and know that I am God. That's not a suggestion, it's a battle command. It means your stillness activates his sovereignty. Let me make it real. Imagine someone trying to argue with you. They raise their voice, expecting a fight. But instead of shouting back, you lower your tone, you breathe, you smile, you say, God bless you. Now they're confused. They were ready for war, but you brought peace. You just disarmed the enemy using nothing but grace. And guess what? That calm protects your energy. It preserves your power, because every reaction costs you something. Focus, clarity, strength. But calm pays you back. It gives you room to think, space to hear God, power to discern. When you stay calm, you start seeing the real enemy. It's not your boss. It's not your ex. It's not your relative who keeps provoking you. The real enemy is the spirit behind the chaos. And when you recognize that, you don't waste your weapons on people. You go to your knees, you go to the secret place, you stay in position, because calm isn't passive, it's prophetic. It means you've already seen the end, and you know this is just a distraction. Think about David facing Goliath. The army is trembling, reacting, fearing, but David walks in with calm. He says, who is this uncircumcised Philistine? That wasn't arrogance. That was holy calm. That was the confidence of someone fought lions and bears in secret and knew his God in silence. Calm is what kept Daniel peaceful in the lion's den. Calm is what carried Esther before the king. Calm is what kept Paul singing in prison. And calm is what will keep you stable when everything around you starts to spin. When others panic, you pause. When others curse, you confess. When others doubt, you declare. That's the power of calm. And here's the secret. Your calm gives God space to move. As long as you're fighting, shouting, reacting, you're in the way. But when you step back, when you breathe, when you surrender, that's when heaven steps in. That's when angels move. That's when strategies shift and answers are released. Your calm is a signal to heaven that you're ready for divine intervention, because God doesn't bless chaos. He blesses order. And peace is the highest form of order. It's alignment. It's authority. It's faith in action. So the next time the enemy knocks on your door through delay, discouragement, disrespect, don't answer with panic. Answer with peace. Don't show him your frustration. Show him your faith, because when you stay calm, you confuse the enemy. He can't track you. He can't trap you. He can't touch you. Your calm becomes your covering. Your calm becomes your crown. And every time you stay calm, you declare to the world, I'm not driven by the storm. I'm anchored in the source. The storm is not your enemy. It's your training ground. The fire is not your destruction. It's your refinement. You were never meant to break under pressure. You were built to rise through it. So when life shakes you, when people betray you, when the weight becomes heavy and your emotions scream for release, breathe. Choose calm, because calm is not the absence of power. It is power perfectly harnessed. It is God whispering, be still, I've already gone ahead of you. Listen, lions don't roar at flies. Eagles don't flap at pigeons. And kings don't argue with jesters. The most powerful move you can ever make in life is to not allow anyone access to your peace. When you respond in calm, you reclaim your authority. That's silence. That's stillness. That's not weakness. That's God working behind the scenes. That's the thunder of heaven moving in your favor. Do you know why the ocean never panics during a storm? Because it understands that its depth is greater than the disturbance on the surface. You are deeper than what's disturbing you. You are not built for reaction. You're designed for revelation. And revelation only comes when the noise dies down. That's why God speaks in a still small voice. That's why he leads in silence. Because he knows the greatest warriors are not those who shout the loudest, but those who hear the quietest. When you hold your peace, you position yourself for power. It's not about ignoring problems. It's about seeing from a higher place. You don't fight every barking dog when you're on your way to the palace. You don't address every insult, every misunderstanding, every attack. Why? Because the crown you carry is too heavy for petty arguments. You don't have time to explain yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you. Let them think what they want. Your purpose doesn't need their approval. Don't let people pull you into their storm. Pull them into your peace. That's how you win. That's how you grow. When you walk into a room, don't carry your frustration. Carry your atmosphere. Command the room with your calm. Let your stillness speak volumes. Because while others are losing their heads, you're listening to heaven. While others are reacting to insults, you're responding to purpose. And here's the truth: the moment you master your emotions, you master your elevation. You will never rise beyond the level of your emotional discipline. Favor requires stability. Promotion demands emotional intelligence. God will not bless what you can't manage. So if you're praying for next level blessings, you must first develop next level calm. Stop praying for bigger doors while slamming the ones in front of you with your temper. Learn the strength of restraint. Learn the language of silence. Learn the art of emotional mastery. One moment of anger can ruin years of progress. One reckless reaction can destroy a reputation. But one decision to stay calm, one moment of pause, one choice to trust God instead of yourself, that can open doors no man can shut, that can silence enemies without lifting a finger, that can shift your entire destiny. You don't have to fight every battle. Some victories come in your stillness, because when the enemy can't control your emotions, he can't control your outcome. You become unshakable, you become unmovable, you become dangerous, you become exactly who God created you to be, powerful, poised, and full of purpose. Remember the words of Maya Angelou. I've learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. Let people feel your peace. Let them feel your strength without you having to lift your voice. Let your composure preach louder than your complaints. Let your peace make noise, because the most powerful room you will ever command is the room of your own soul. And when you can sit there in the quiet, in the storm, in the fire, and smile, breathe, and say, God's got this, that's when you've won. That's when hell gets nervous. That's when heaven gets ready. And that's when destiny opens wide and says, welcome home, you've passed the test.